The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was a massive structure that floated in space. It was built from materials that glowed with soft blue light. Inside, representatives from 100 different alien species sat in curved rows. They all watched the human standing at the center platform. Admiral Tae-hyun stood alone on that platform. His military uniform was dark blue with silver badges on the shoulders. He had been standing there for 2 hours now. His back was straight. His face showed no emotion, but his hands were tight fists at his sides. This was his 7th visit to the council. Each time he came with the same message. Each time they gave him the same answer. Nothing would change. Nothing would be done. Behind him, Commander Da-eun stood at attention. She was his 2nd officer. She had sharp eyes that missed nothing. She watched the alien council members carefully. Most of them were not even paying attention. Some were talking among themselves. Others were looking at data screens built into their seats. The head of the council was a being called the Speaker. It had gray skin and forearms. Its voice came through translator devices that floated near every seat. The speaker's voice was tired and annoyed. "Admiral Tae-hyun," the speaker said, "we have heard your complaint. Again. The Vorkan Collective operates in the outer regions. They are difficult to control, but they are not a threat to galactic peace." Tae-hyun took a slow breath. His voice was calm when he spoke. Too calm. Not a threat? They have attacked 15 human settlements in the last 3 cycles. They have killed over 2,000 civilians. They steal our resources. They destroy our stations. And you call this not a threat? A council member from the Vrelian species made a sound like laughter. It sounded like clicking stones. Your people are new to space, human. These are minor disputes, territorial adjustments. This is how the galaxy works. Another council member spoke up. This one looked like a large insect with rainbow wings. Perhaps if humanity had better defenses, the Vorkans would not find your colony so inviting. More laughter rippled through the chamber. The translator devices buzzed with it. Tae-hyun saw Tae-hyun's jaw muscles tighten. She had served with him for 8 years. She knew what that meant. He was holding back anger. A lot of anger. Tae-hyun raised his voice slightly. "We have shown restraint. We have followed your laws. We have honored the peace accords. We came to you for help because we believed in this council. We believed in galactic civilization. But you do nothing. You mock us instead." The speaker waved one of its 4 hands. "Admiral, your passion is noted. But humanity must understand its place. You have been in space for only 50 of your years. Other species have traveled the stars for thousands of years. We have systems that work. Peace is maintained through patience, not through force." "Peace?" Tae-hyun's voice was quiet now. "Danger is quiet. There is no peace for the families who lost their children. There is no peace for the workers who watched their stations burn. There is no peace when pirates can attack us and you call it territorial adjustment." Another council member spoke. This one was tall and thin with silver skin. "What would you have us do, Admiral? Send our fleets to protect every human colony? That is not how the council operates. You must defend yourselves within the limits of the accords." Tae-hyun stood very still. For a long moment he said nothing. The chamber grew quiet. Even the council members who had been ignoring him started to pay attention. There was something in his silence that felt heavy. When Tae-hyun spoke again, his voice was different. It was the voice of a man who had made a decision. A final decision. "I came here to give you one last chance. One final opportunity to help us. To show us that the council means something. That galactic law means something." He looked around the chamber. His eyes moved from one council member to another. "We have been holding back. Do you understand that? Holding back. We followed your rules. We limited our weapons. We restricted our military. We did this because we wanted to be part of your civilization." The Vrelian who had laughed earlier spoke up. "Holding back? What a curious phrase. You speak as if humanity has some great power we do not know about. You are a young species with primitive technology. You have nothing we fear." Da-eun saw it then. The change in Tae-hyun's face. It was not anger anymore. It was something colder. Something that made her skin prickle with warning. She had seen that look once before. During the war simulations, when the Admiral had been given permission to use all available resources. Tae-hyun smiled. It was not a happy smile. "Nothing you fear. Yes, that is the problem, is it not? You do not fear us. You do not respect us. You think we are weak because we asked for help instead of taking revenge? He turned to leave the platform. Then he stopped. He looked back at the speaker. I want you to remember something. Remember that we came here 7 times. Remember that we asked for help. Remember that we tried to do this your way. Remember that we warned you. Warned us? The speaker sounded amused. About what, Admiral? Taehyun's voice was ice cold. About what happens when humans stop holding back. The chamber filled with laughter again. But Daewon did not laugh. She followed her admiral out of the chamber. Her hand moved to the communication device on her wrist. She knew what was coming next. They walked through the long corridors that led to the docking bay. Their footsteps echoed on the metal floors. Taehyun said nothing. His face showed no emotion, but his hands were still fists. When they reached their ship, Taehyun stopped at the airlock. He pulled out a secure communication device. This was different from normal comm units. It had special encryption. It could only reach one person. Premier Ji-won, the leader of Earth's government. Taehyun pressed the activation button. He spoke clearly. Premier Ji-won, this is Admiral Taehyun. The Council has refused to act. They will provide no assistance, no protection, no justice. I'm requesting authorization for Crimson Protocol. Daeun felt her breath catch. Crimson Protocol. She had heard rumors about it. Every military officer had, but it was supposed to be theoretical, a plan that would never be used. A plan that was too dangerous, too extreme. The secure channel stayed silent for 30 seconds. Then Premier Ji-won's voice came through. It was a woman's voice. Calm, strong, but there was sadness in it too. Admiral Taehyun, I have received your request. I have consulted with the Security Council. We all hoped it would not come to this. We all hoped the galaxy would be different. She paused. Authorization code confirmed. Crimson Protocol is active. All restrictions are lifted. All projects are authorized. Show them what humanity really is. The channel went silent. Taehyun lowered the device. He looked at Daewon. For the first time in hours, she saw emotion in his eyes. Not anger, not hate. Just tired determination, Commander, he said quietly. Contact all fleet admirals. Contact all defense stations. Contact the research facilities. Tell them 2 words, unleash everything. Daewon nodded slowly. Her fingers moved over her communication device. She sent the encrypted message to dozens of locations, from Earth to Mars, from the Jupiter stations to the frontier colonies, from military bases to secret research facilities that most people did not know existed. The message was simple. Just 2 words. But those 2 words changed everything. Deep beneath Seoul, in a command center built into solid rock, lights began to turn green. Systems that had been locked for 50 years came online. Weapons that had been kept in storage were moved to active status. Ships that had been disguised as cargo vessels revealed their true nature. In a secret facility on Earth's moon, scientists removed the safety locks from technologies that had been deemed too dangerous for use. Railguns that could punch through any known shield. Electronic warfare systems that could blind entire fleets. Missiles that could track targets across entire solar systems. On Mars, factory complexes that had been producing civilian goods switched to military production. Assembly lines that had been idle for decades roared to life. In 72 hours, they would produce more weapons than the Vorkan Collective had in their entire military. Taehyun watched the confirmation messages appear on his datapad. Green lights. One after another. Each one meant another weapon system coming online. Another restriction removed. Another tool of war made ready. He looked up at the stars through the viewport. Somewhere out there, the Vorkan Collective was celebrating. They thought they could attack humans without consequences. They thought the Council's protection meant they were safe. They thought humanity was weak. They were wrong. Humanity had not been weak. Humanity had been restrained. They had been holding back their true capabilities because they wanted to join galactic civilization peacefully. They had hoped that showing restraint would earn them respect, but the galaxy had mistaken that restraint for weakness. They had mocked humanity's peaceful intentions. They had laughed at human suffering. Now they would learn the truth. Now they would understand why humanity had survived 1,000 years of war on their own planet, why they had developed weapons that could destroy cities, why they had learned to fight with precision and efficiency, because humanity had never known lasting peace. They had always been preparing for the next war. And now that war had come, The Vorkan raiding fleet moved through space like sharks through water. 17 ships, all of them painted in dark colors that made them hard to see. Their leader was Commander Krell. He had led 30 successful raids against human colonies. Each time the humans had been easy prey. Today's target was New Busan. It was a mining colony on a small moon. The intelligence report said it had 3,000 workers and very few defenses. The Vorkans would take the processed minerals, destroy the equipment, and leave before any help could arrive. It was a simple plan. The same plan that had worked many times before. Krell sat in his command chair and watched the displays. Weapons ready. Prepare to drop out of jump space in 30 seconds. This will be quick and easy. His crew made sounds of agreement. They were already thinking about the rewards they would get. The Vorkan Collective paid well for human resources, and there was never any real danger. The humans were weak. Everyone knew that. The fleet dropped out of jump space. The moon appeared on their screens. The mining colony was there, exactly where the report said it would be. Krell smiled. His teeth were sharp and yellow. Then his weapons officer made a sound of confusion. Commander, I am detecting ships. Human ships. They were not in the intelligence reports. Krell leaned forward. How many? 7 destroyers. They are moving into attack formation. Krell relaxed. 7 destroyers against 17 raiders. The numbers were in his favor. All ships attack formation. Destroy the human vessels. Show them what happens when they try to defend themselves. The Vorkan ships moved forward. Their weapons charged. Their shields came online. They had done this dance 100 times before. Humans always fought the same way. Slow. Predictable. Weak. But something was different this time. The human destroyers were not fighting the old way. They moved with strange precision, like they were all controlled by one mind. They did not spread out. They stayed close together. They moved in patterns that made no sense to Krell. Then they fired. The lead human ship was commanded by Captain Hei-Wan. She had been waiting for this moment for 3 years. Ever since the Vorkans had destroyed her first command and killed half her crew, she had trained for this. She had prepared for this. And now finally she had permission to fight without restrictions. All ships target the lead Vorkan cruiser. Fire railguns on my mark. Her voice was calm. Cold. Mark. 7 ships fired at once. But these were not the weapons the Vorkans had seen before. These were railguns. Magnetic accelerators that pushed metal rods to incredible speeds. The rods were made of tungsten. They were very dense, very heavy, and they were moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The Vorkan shields were designed to stop energy weapons. Lasers. Plasma bolts. Those were the weapons that most species used. But kinetic weapons? Physical projectiles moving at relativistic speeds? The shields did nothing. The tungsten rods hit the lead Vorkan cruiser. The impact released more energy than a nuclear bomb. The cruiser did not explode. It simply stopped existing. One moment it was there. The next moment it was a cloud of superheated gas and metal fragments. On Krell's ship, the weapons officer was screaming. What was that? What kind of weapon was that? Krell had no answer. He had never seen anything like it. The human ships were already moving to their next targets. They moved fast, too fast. They should not be able to maneuver like that. Inside the human destroyer, Yeonsu worked at her station. She was an electronic warfare specialist. Her job was to make sure the Vorkans could not communicate, could not coordinate, could not call for help. Captain, I have control of their communications network, Yeonsu reported. Her fingers moved quickly over her controls. They cannot send messages outside this system. They cannot even talk to each other clearly. I am filling their channels with noise. Hei-Wan nodded. Good, keep them blind and deaf. Next target, starboard formation, fire. 3 more Vorkan ships died. The railguns fired again and again. Each shot was perfectly aimed. Each shot destroyed its target completely. The Vorkan return fire was useless. Their weapons could not lock onto the human ships. Their missiles could not find targets. Their communications were chaos. Krell tried to retreat. All ships jump out. Emergency jump! Get us out of here! But his jump drive would not activate. None of the Vorkan ships could jump. The humans had deployed something into the local space. Some kind of field that prevented jump drives from working. The Vorkans were trapped. 8 minutes. That was all it took. 8 minutes from the start of the battle to its end. 15 Vorkan ships were destroyed. 15 clouds of debris floating in space. Only 2 ships remained. Krell's command ship and 1 raider. HFY studied her tactical display. She could destroy those 2 ships easily, but she had her orders. Ceasefire. Let them run. Her tactical officer looked confused. Captain, we should finish them. No, let them go. Let them tell everyone what happened here. Let them spread fear. HFY smiled. It was not a kind smile. The message is more valuable than 2 more kills. Yonsu deactivated the jamming field. Communications are open, Captain. They can jump now. Krell did not wait. His ship jumped immediately. The other surviving raider followed. They fled back to Vorkan space. Their crew members were shaking. Some were crying. They had thought humans were weak. They had been very wrong. The 2 ships arrived at the nearest Vorkan military base 3 hours later. Krell's hands were still shaking when he sent his report to the High Command. He tried to explain what had happened. He tried to describe the weapons, the speed, the precision. The High Command did not believe him at first. 15 ships destroyed in 8 minutes? By 7 human destroyers? Impossible. Krell must be lying. Or he was a coward. Or he had lost his mind. But then more reports came in. Other raiding parties that had attacked human targets. All destroyed. All within minutes. All with the same descriptions. Weapons that moved too fast. Ships that fought with impossible coordination. Humans who fought like machines. On a different Vorkan base, an analyst named Bora studied the reports carefully. She had been studying humanity for 2 years. It was her job to understand potential enemies. She had read human history. She had studied their wars. She had analyzed their technology, and she was terrified. Bora had tried to warn the High Command before. She had sent reports explaining that humans were dangerous, that their history showed a species that had spent thousands of years fighting wars, that they had developed incredible weapons, that they had learned to fight with terrible efficiency. No one had listened. The Vorkan military leaders had dismissed her reports. They said she was being paranoid. They said humans were primitive. They said there was nothing to fear. Now Bora sat at her desk and wrote another report. Her hands moved quickly over the input device. She marked the report as urgent, critical, top priority. The report was simple and direct. It said that the Vorkan collective had made a terrible mistake, that they had awakened something they did not understand, that humanity had been holding back their true military capabilities, that every raid, every attack, every dead human had been pushing humanity closer to this moment. Bora's report ended with a clear recommendation. Cease all hostile actions against humanity immediately. Send diplomats, apologize, make peace. Do whatever was necessary to stop this war before it truly began. She sent the report to the High Command. Then she waited for a response. The response came 6 hours later. It was short, dismissive. The High Command said that Bora was overreacting, that losing a few raiding parties meant nothing, that the Vorkan collective had a massive military, thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. The High Command was already preparing a response. They would send a battle fleet, a real military force, not raiders, not pirates, a proper armada that would crush the human defenses and teach them their place in the galaxy. Bora read the response and felt her blood turn cold. They had learned nothing. They still did not understand what they were facing. They still thought humans were weak. She looked at her screens, at the reports of destroyed Vorkan ships, at the tactical analyses that showed how precisely the humans had fought, at the data about weapons and technologies that should not exist, and she knew. The Vorkan collective was about to learn a very painful lesson. They were about to discover what happened when you pushed humanity too far, when you ignored their warnings, when you mistook their restraint for weakness. The humans had been holding back. Now they were not, and the galaxy was about to change forever. The Vorkan Armada was the largest military force the collective had assembled in 50 years. 300 warships, from massive dreadnoughts to fast attack cruisers. Each ship carried hundreds of soldiers. Each ship had weapons that could destroy cities. The fleet commander was High Admiral Voss. He was old and experienced. He had fought in 20 major battles and won them all. Voss stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the tactical displays with satisfaction. This is how we respond to human aggression. Not with raiders, not with pirates, but with the full might of the Vorkan military, the Armada jumped into the Terran frontier. This was the outer edge of human space, several mining colonies, a few defense stations, nothing that could stand against 300 warships. Voss planned to bombard the colonies from orbit, to destroy their defenses, to show humanity that resistance was futile. But when the Armada dropped out of jump space, Voss immediately knew something was wrong. The sector was too quiet. There were no panicked transmissions from the colonies, no emergency signals, no defensive scramble, just silence and waiting. Admiral Tae-hyun had been preparing for this moment for 2 weeks. Ever since the first Vorkan raid had been destroyed, he knew they would respond with force. So he had transformed the entire frontier sector into a trap, a killing field designed specifically to destroy large fleet formations. Tae-hyun sat in his command center and watched the Vorkan fleet appear on his displays. They came, all of them, perfect. He activated his communication system. All units, execute plan graveyard. The first wave came from everywhere and nowhere, mines, thousands of them. But these were not simple explosive devices. These were autonomous hunter-killers, small machines with their own propulsion, their own sensors, their own targeting systems. They had been floating quietly in the sector, powered down and invisible. Now they activated. They accelerated toward the Vorkan fleet. Each mine moved at tremendous speed. Each mine headed for a specific target. The Vorkans saw them coming. They tried to shoot them down, but there were too many. Far too many. The mines hit. They were designed to target engines and weapon systems. Not to destroy ships, but to cripple them, to leave them floating helpless in space. Within the first minute, 40 Vorkan ships lost power. Their engines went dark. Their weapons went offline. On his flagship, Voss was shouting orders. Evasive maneuvers. Return fire. Get us out of this minefield. But before the Armada could regroup, the second wave struck. Defense stations that the Vorkans had thought were civilian structures revealed their true nature. Their outer shells split open, missile pods extended, and they fired thousands of missiles, all of them guided by advanced targeting systems, all of them moving at speeds that made them nearly impossible to intercept. The Vorkan point defense systems tried to stop them. They destroyed some, but not enough. Not nearly enough. The missiles slammed into the Vorkan fleet. Ships exploded. Others lost their shields. The formation that had looked so impressive moments ago was now in chaos. Ships collided with each other as they tried to maneuver. Communications channels filled with panicked calls for help. Then the human fleet arrived. It was not a large fleet, only 70 ships, but they moved with precision that seemed impossible. They stayed in tight formations. They fired in coordinated volleys. Every movement was calculated. Every shot was aimed perfectly. Colonel Min-soo commanded the marine assault ships. His job was different from the others. While most of the fleet focused on destroying Vorkan vessels, his teams had a different mission. Board the crippled ships. Capture them. Take prisoners. All marine divisions target the disabled cruisers. We need intelligence. We need to know their fleet dispositions, their base locations, their command structure. Min-soo checked his armor systems. And remember, we are sending a message. We are showing them what happens when you fight humans in close quarters. The marine assault ships docked with crippled Vorkan vessels. Boarding tubes extended. Then the Marines went in. The Vorkans tried to defend their ships. They had numbers on their side. But the human Marines had something better. Power armor, advanced weapons, and training that had been refined through centuries of combat. The corridors of the Vorkan ships became battlegrounds. But they were one-sided battles. The marine armor could withstand Vorkan weapons. Human weapons could punch through Vorkan armor. The humans moved as teams. They covered each other. They used tactics that the Vorkans had never seen before. Min-soo led one of the boarding teams personally. He moved through the Vorkan cruiser with his squad behind him. His armor's sensors showed him where the enemies were. His weapons targeting system marked them automatically. He did not miss. None of his Marines missed. Within 20 minutes, the cruiser was secured. The surviving Vorkans were prisoners. Min-soo accessed the ship's computer systems and began downloading data. Fleet positions, supply routes, command codes, everything that would help humanity win this war faster. While the Marines worked, the space battle continued. Fighter Ace Soo-jin led her wing of attack craft against the Vorkan fighters. She had been flying combat missions since she was 20 years old. She had trained in simulators that recreated every possible combat scenario. She knew every trick, every tactic, every weakness that fighters could have. Sujin's wing hit the Vorkan fighter screen like a hammer. Alpha formation. Target their command ship's fighter bay. I want those launch tubes destroyed before they can deploy more fighters. Her fighters moved in perfect coordination. They used the debris from destroyed ships as cover. They came at the Vorkan capital ships from unexpected angles. They fired missiles and then immediately broke away before return fire could lock onto them. The Vorkan fighters tried to intercept them, but they were outmatched. Human fighters were faster, more maneuverable, and the pilots had better training. For every human fighter destroyed, 10 Vorkan fighters fell. Sujin lined up her target. The launch tubes on a Vorkan dreadnought. Missiles away. Break left. Her missiles struck true. The launch tubes exploded. Secondary explosions rippled through the fighter bay. The dreadnought would launch no more fighters today, or ever. The battle lasted for 2 days. Not because the Vorkans were winning, but because it took time to destroy 300 ships. Time to hunt down the vessels that tried to flee. Time to board the ones that surrendered. Time to salvage the wreckage and recover useful technology. When it was over, the Vorkan armada no longer existed. Some ships had been destroyed completely. Others were captured. A few dozen had managed to jump away. But the mighty fleet that had come to crush humanity was gone. Taehyun stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the aftermath. Debris fields stretching for thousands of kilometers. Disabled Vorkan ships being towed away by human salvage vessels. Marine teams still working on secured ships. He activated the communication system, not a private channel this time. An open broadcast, one that would be heard across the entire sector. That would be recorded and spread throughout the galaxy. This is Admiral Taehyun of the Earth Defense Fleet, to the Vorkan Collective, to the Galactic Council, to all species who are watching. You have seen what happened here. 300 warships came to our territory with hostile intent. None of those ships will return home. He paused. Let the words sink in. Let the images of destroyed Vorkan ships fill the screens of everyone watching. We asked for peace. We asked for justice. We asked for help. You gave us nothing. You told us to defend ourselves. So we are defending ourselves. We tried to warn you. We tried to explain that we were holding back, that we were restraining our capabilities. You did not listen. His voice grew colder, harder. Now you know the truth. Humanity did not come to the stars to conquer. We came seeking peace and partnership, but we came prepared for war. Because we have always been prepared for war. It is what we know. It is what we are good at. Taehyun looked directly at the camera. This war does not end here. We are not waiting for the next attack. We are not going to hide behind our borders and hope you leave us alone. We are coming for you. We are going to dismantle your military. We are going to destroy your ability to threaten anyone ever again. You had a choice. You had many chances. You chose war. Now you will learn the difference between those who talk about war and those who have mastered it. This is not revenge. This is not rage. This is humans doing what humans do best, and we will not stop until you understand, until everyone understands, that humanity's restraint was a gift you rejected. Now you face us without restraint, without mercy, without limits. This is the war you chose. These are the consequences of your choices. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was very different from the last time humans had stood before them. The chamber was filled with nervous energy. Council members whispered to each other. Their translator devices buzzed constantly with worried conversations. Ambassador Da-Yun walked to the center platform. She had been promoted after Admiral Taehyun had left for the frontier. Now she represented Earth in all diplomatic matters. She carried a data device in her hand. Her face showed no emotion, but inside she felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. Satisfaction because the Council was finally taking humanity seriously. Sadness because it had taken so much death to reach this point. The speaker addressed her. Its voice was very different now. No more condescension. No more dismissal. Just careful politeness. Ambassador Da-Un, we have requested this session to discuss the current situation with the Vorkan Collective. We have received disturbing reports. Da-Un activated her data device. Holographic displays appeared in the air around her. Images of destroyed Vorkan ships. Tactical analyses of the battles. Casualty reports. Disturbing reports, yes, I have reports too. Would the council like to see them? She did not wait for an answer. The holographic displays expanded. They filled the chamber with data, numbers, images, evidence. In the last 3 weeks, humanity has engaged the Vorkan military 17 times. 17 battles, all victories. The Vorkan Collective has lost 432 ships. They have lost 7 military bases. They have lost their ability to project force beyond their core territories. A council member from the Peltorian species spoke up. Its voice was shaking. Ambassador, these numbers suggest a military capability far beyond what humanity has claimed. How is this possible? You have only been in space for 50 years. Dayun looked at the council member. Her eyes were cold. How is it possible? Because we did not stop developing weapons when we reached space. Because we did not stop training soldiers. Because we did not stop preparing for war. We came to space hoping for peace. But we never forgot that peace is fragile. That peace requires strength to maintain. She changed the holographic display. Now it showed human weapon systems, railguns, electronic warfare equipment, advanced fighters, minefields, all the technologies that had destroyed the Vorkan fleet. We developed these weapons over decades. We tested them. We refined them. We kept them secret because we did not want to appear threatening. We thought that if we showed restraint, if we followed your rules, if we acted peaceful, you would accept us as equals. Daun's voice grew harder. We were wrong. You did not see our restraint as a gift. You saw it as weakness. You laughed at us. You dismissed our concerns. You let the Vorkans attack us again and again, and when we asked for help, you told us to defend ourselves. The council's security director stood up. It was a member of the Keltharian species. They were one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. They had witnessed 1,000 wars. Ambassador Daun, I have reviewed the tactical data from your battles. I must say something that troubles me deeply. The old being paused. Its eyes looked tired and worried. Your victories were not accidents. They were not lucky. They were not desperate struggles. They were systematic, calculated, optimized. Every casualty you inflicted was planned. Every target you destroyed was prioritized. Every movement your forces made was coordinated with precision that I have rarely seen. The security director looked around the chamber. At all the other council members, this is not rage. This is not revenge. This is practice doctrine. This is what a species does when warfare is not just something they have experienced, but something they have mastered. Humanity did not just win these battles. They dominated them. They made warfare look like science, like art. A council member named Hyo Jin spoke next. She represented a pacifist species that had not fought a war in 3,000 years. Her voice was gentle but firm. Ambassador Dayun, I acknowledge that humanity has suffered. I acknowledge that we failed to help you. But surely continuing this war serves no purpose. The Vorkans have been defeated. They pose no threat now. I propose that the council intervene, that we arrange a ceasefire, that we help both sides make peace. The chamber grew very quiet. Everyone waited to hear Daun's response. She stood still for a moment. Then she smiled. It was not a happy smile. Intervention? You mean like the intervention you provided when our civilians were dying? When our stations were burning? When we came here 7 times begging for help? Her voice was sharp. We will stop when we are certain this will never happen again. Not before. She changed the holographic display again. Now it showed human history. Wars, conflicts, battles that had been fought on Earth over thousands of years. Do you want to know why humanity is so good at war? Let me explain. An intelligence officer named Sang Woo appeared on the platform next to Daun. He had prepared this presentation specifically for the council. He had gathered data from human history, from wars that had happened centuries ago, from conflicts that had shaped humanity. Sang Woo activated his own data files. Humanity has been at war for most of its recorded history. In the last 5,000 years, we have known true global peace for less than 300 years total. The rest of the time, somewhere on our planet, humans were fighting other humans. The holographic display showed weapons development through human history: spears, bows, guns, tanks, aircraft, nuclear weapons. Each generation had invented new ways to fight, new ways to kill, new ways to win. We did not develop these weapons because we wanted to conquer the galaxy. We developed them because we were fighting each other. We spent thousands of years perfecting the art of warfare, Strategy, tactics, logistics, training, everything that makes a military effective. Sang-Woo changed the display to show military academies, training programs, war colleges where human officers studied ancient battles and modern conflicts. When we reached space, we did not abandon this knowledge. We adapted it. We applied it to space warfare. We thought about how to fight in zero gravity, how to coordinate fleets across vast distances, how to use weapons in vacuum. We prepared for every possibility. He looked at the council members. You see, most species in this galaxy developed during long periods of peace. You reached space during peaceful times. You built civilizations based on cooperation, on diplomacy, on avoiding conflict. Humanity is different. We reached space during an era when we were still recovering from global wars, wars that nearly destroyed our entire civilization. We came to space hoping to leave war behind. But we brought our knowledge with us, just in case. The Vrelian council member who had laughed at Admiral Tae-hyun spoke. Its voice was not laughing now. You are saying that humanity specialized in warfare while other species specialized in other pursuits? Sang-Woo nodded. Exactly. While you were creating art, building monuments, developing philosophy, we were fighting wars. While you were having peace, we were having conflicts. It was not by choice. It was not because we wanted to. It was simply our history, our reality. Dayun stepped forward again. This is why we asked for help. This is why we warned you. We knew what we were capable of. We knew that if you forced us to fight, the result would be terrible, not because we are cruel, but because we are experienced. Premier Ji-won's face appeared on the main holographic display. She was broadcasting from Earth. Her message was being transmitted to every corner of galactic space. Members of the Galactic Council, citizens of all species, I am Premier Ji-won, leader of Earth's unified government. I speak to you now to make something very clear. Her face was calm, but her eyes were hard. Humanity came to the stars seeking peace. We hoped to join a civilization built on law and justice. We followed your rules. We restricted our weapons. We showed restraint even when attacked. We did this because we believed in the system you created. But your system failed us. Your council ignored our suffering. Your laws did not protect us. Your peace was an illusion that only worked for the strong and the protected, not for newcomers like us. Her voice grew stronger. So now we enforce our own peace. We ensure our own security. We protect our own people. And we will continue to do so until we are absolutely certain that no one will ever attack humanity again. This is not conquest. This is not empire building. This is survival. This is ensuring that our children can grow up safe, that our colonies can prosper without fear, that humanity has a future in this galaxy. Your peace failed us. Now we will build our own, and we will build it strong enough that it will never fail. This is the lesson you forced us to teach. This is the reality you created. We did not want this war, but we will finish it, completely, absolutely, without question, because that is what humanity does when we are pushed too far, when our warnings are ignored, when our restraint is mistaken for weakness. We show the galaxy who we really are, not conquerors, not monsters, but survivors who will do whatever is necessary to protect what is ours. 3 months had passed since the war began. The Vorkan Collective no longer existed as a military power. Their fleets were destroyed. Their bases were captured or abandoned. Their government had collapsed under the weight of defeat. The formal surrender happened on a neutral station near the border between Vorkan and human space. Admiral Tae-hyun stood on one side of a long table. The remaining Vorkan leaders stood on the other side. They looked broken, defeated. Some could not meet his eyes. The surrender terms were not negotiable. The Vorkan military would be dismantled. All warships would be turned over to human control. All military bases would be inspected and decommissioned. Vorkan space would be monitored by human peacekeeping forces. No weapons development would be allowed without human approval. The Vorkan leader signed the documents with shaking hands. When it was done, Tae-hyun spoke. His voice was not triumphant, just tired. This war did not need to happen. We gave you many chances to choose peace. You chose war instead. Now you live with the consequences. But the surrender was only the beginning of the changes that swept through the galaxy. The Galactic Council met again. This time they were not discussing whether to help humanity. They were discussing how to avoid becoming humanity's next target. The council chambers were filled with fear and calculation. Ambassador Dayun stood before them with a document. It was called the Terran Security Accords. The name said everything. These were not agreements that humanity was asking for. These were conditions that humanity was setting. The accords are simple, Dayun explained. Her voice was professional and calm. Humanity will take responsibility for maintaining security in several key sectors. We will patrol trade routes. We will respond to piracy. We will prevent aggressive military buildups. We will do the job that the Council failed to do. The speaker looked uncomfortable. Ambassador, you are essentially asking for military authority over a significant portion of galactic space. Dayun smiled slightly. We are not asking. We are informing. The Council had its chance to maintain order. It failed. Humanity will not make the same mistake. The Council voted. The accords passed unanimously. No one wanted to be the species that said no to humanity. Not after what had happened to the Vorkans. The galaxy had changed. The old order was gone. In its place was a new reality where human military power shaped galactic politics. Commander Sujin now led patrol squadrons through space lanes that had once been dangerous. Her fighters moved in formations that had become famous throughout the galaxy. Pirates saw those formations and fled. Raiders saw human patrol ships and changed course. She sat in her cockpit and looked at the peaceful void around her. No battles today. No weapons fired, just presence. Just the knowledge that humanity was watching. It was strange how effective that had become. Her communication system beeped. A merchant vessel was reporting suspicious activity near an asteroid field. Acknowledged. Moving to investigate. Sujin adjusted her course. Her wing followed automatically. They would check it out. They would ensure the merchant was safe. Because that was the job now. Not destroyer, protector. On Earth, in the military academy in Seoul, a young officer named Junho studied the war that had changed everything. He was part of the first generation of officers trained after the Vorkan conflict. His instructors made sure he understood every lesson, every mistake, every success. His primary instructor was none other than Ambassador Dayun. She had returned to Earth to teach, to ensure that the next generation understood what had happened and why. She stood before the class of young officers and spoke with quiet intensity. You need to understand something. This war was not a victory to celebrate. It was a failure of diplomacy, a failure of understanding, a failure of the system we had hoped to join. We did not want this war. We tried everything to avoid it. We asked for help. We showed restraint. We followed the rules. But none of that mattered when the other side did not respect us. When they saw our peaceful intentions as weakness, Junho raised his hand. Dayun nodded at him. Instructor, why did we let those first two Vorkan ships escape? At New Busan, Captain Haewon could have destroyed them. Dayun smiled slightly. Good question. What do you think the reason was? Junho thought for a moment. To send a message. To spread fear. Partially correct, but not just fear. Information. We needed the galaxy to understand what had changed. 2 destroyed ships tell no tales. 2 escaped ships spread the story across the entire collective. They made sure everyone knew that humanity had stopped holding back. She walked to the display screen and showed footage from the war. Destroyed Vorkan ships, captured bases, surrendering fleets. Everything we did in this war was designed to achieve a specific goal. Not conquest, not revenge, but security. We wanted to make sure that no one would ever attack humanity again. That no one would ever mistake our restraint for weakness. That everyone would understand the price of forcing us to fight. Another cadet spoke up. But now everyone fears us. Is that better than being dismissed? Dayun considered the question carefully before answering. It is not about fear. It is about respect. Before the war, the galaxy dismissed us. They saw us as children playing with technology we barely understood. Now they see us as we truly are. A species that survived thousands of years of warfare on our own world. A species that learned to fight with precision and efficiency. A species that values peace but is fully capable of war. In Vorkan space, the rebuilding had begun. But it was happening under human supervision. Former analyst Bo-Ra worked with the human peacekeeping forces now. She had been right about humanity. She had tried to warn her people. Now she was helping to fix the damage that ignorance had caused. She worked alongside human officers to reorganize Vorkan society, to help them build a peaceful future, to ensure they understood that humanity was not there to punish but to prevent, to make sure this could never happen again. One day, Bo-Ra asked her human liaison officer a question. Why are you helping us? After everything we did? After all the humans we killed? The officer thought about it for a moment. Because we remember our own history, we know what it is like to be trapped in cycles of violence. We fought wars for thousands of years. We killed each other over resources, over territory, over ideas. We know how hard it is to break free from that. So we help you break free, not because we are kind, but because we understand. Admiral Tae-hyun stood on the bridge of humanity's newest flagship. It was larger than any human ship built before, more advanced, more powerful. It was named Unity, a reminder of what humanity sought even while preparing for war. He looked at the tactical displays showing human ships positioned throughout the galaxy. Patrol routes, defense stations, quick reaction forces, all of it designed to maintain peace, to prevent the chaos that had allowed the Vorkans to attack humanity in the first place. Commander Da-un joined him on the bridge. She had come up from Earth for a meeting. She stood beside him and looked at the same displays. "Do you think we did the right thing?" she asked quietly. Tae-hyun was silent for a long moment. "We did what was necessary. We tried peace their way, it failed, so we enforced peace our way. The galaxy is safer now than it was before. Fewer species are suffering from raids and piracy. Trade is more secure. Colonies are protected, but at what cost?" Tae-hyun asked. "At the cost of innocence. At the cost of the dream we had when we first reached the stars. We wanted to join galactic civilization as equals through peaceful means. Instead, we joined it through force, through demonstration of power." He turned to look at her. "But we are here. We are respected. Our people are safe. And other species are safer too because we enforce the rules that the Council could not. Perhaps that is enough." Premier Ji-won addressed the United Nations in a ceremony broadcast across all human space and beyond. The war was over. The peace was established. Now it was time to reflect on what had happened and what it meant for humanity's future. "We came to the stars with hope," she said. "We dreamed of a galaxy where different species worked together, where conflicts were resolved through diplomacy, where violence was a memory of the past. We learned that the galaxy was not what we hoped it would be. We learned that peace requires not just good intentions, but the power to enforce those intentions. We learned that restraint without respect is seen as weakness. So we showed them who we are. Not conquerors, not monsters, but humans. A species that survived 10,000 years of history by learning to adapt, to fight when necessary, to build peace when possible, to never give up, to never stop protecting what we value. We held back because we hoped for better. They mistook that hope for weakness. Now they know the truth. Humanity seeks peace, but we will never be victims. Not ever again. This is our promise to ourselves. This is our message to the galaxy. This is who we are. And this is who we will always be.